The drinks are to find us, man. Does it need to?
I don't know. The rest of them, I don't know. It is, but it's September. I put that $1,000. That's a different recipe. National Association.
Good afternoon, everyone. Make the mics live if we haven't already. Thank you. Thank you for coming today and attending online as well. My name is Steve Keene, and I chair the Water Quality Committee. And first item of business would be a preliminary matter, as we do at each of our committee meetings and EMC meeting, is that there's a statute, North Carolina Statute 138A 15 mandates that at the beginning of any meeting of a board, the chair shall remind all members of their duty to avoid conflicts of interest. Under this subchapter, the chair also shall inquire as to whether there is any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today at this time. All committee members, are there any? If so, let me know. Okay, that's cleared up. There are none. First item then of business is to look at the minutes if you haven't already. It's certainly been posted 2 weeks in advance. The March 12, 2025 meeting minutes. I'd like to have a motion that we look over those real quick, and I'll entertain a motion that we approve those minutes.
Chair Dean, I move to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Baumgartner made the motion that we approve the minutes. Is there a second?
A second.
Commissioner Twitty, thank you. Any discussion? All those approved, raise your hand. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you. And approved. First item, action item on the agenda, request approval to proceed to the EMC with a schedule for readoption as part of the periodic review on existing rules for 15A NCAC 02R. Kelly Williams. EMS.
Thanks. Thank you. Sure I know what I'm doing. Yep. I am Kelly Williams with the Division Mitigation Services. Good afternoon to all of you. I got the spot right after lunch and I was reading that I'm supposed to be exciting and engaging. So we'll have at it. This agenda item is part of the periodic review and expiration of existing rules. And today I have a proposed readoption schedule for your consideration. Excited to present it.
Please.
The EMC rules codified in 15A NCAC 02R were readopted in 2018. Last year, the Division of Mitigation Services staff recommended that the 9 rules in this subchapter be given a determination of necessary as part of the periodic review of existing rules process. So now the EMC approved the final determinations at your January meeting. The report came up at the Rules Review Commission meeting in April and was approved. We expect the determinations to become final in June. Today, I'm requesting this committee's approval to proceed to the EMC with a proposed readoption schedule. And here it is. We are proposing that for several months following the EMC's July meeting, that's 2025, that DMS staff will then draft rule changes and a regulatory impact analysis for approval by OSBM. At this committee's July 2026 meeting, we will request to proceed to the EMC to request to proceed to public notice with the proposed rules, the analysis, and the regulatory impact analysis. Following a comment period and the development of a hearing officer's report, we'll request the EMC's approval of the report, the regulatory impact analysis, and the readoption of the rules with an August 1st readoption deadline proposed. That would give us a proposed September 1st effective date. And I'm going to pause here just to ask if there's any questions at this point. No. This is a condensed version of the same slide before. This is what's in your meeting materials for today. Just pushes everything into a one-pager with fewer details. And so I am requesting approval to proceed to the EMC with a proposed readoption schedule and an August 1st, 2027 readoption deadline for 15A NC AC02R.
Thank you, Kelly. Is there any questions or comments from the committee members? Commissioner Baumgartner?
Hey, Kelly, how you doing?
Hey, good.
See you. I probably read these rules 1,000 times in a previous life of mine, but I noticed reading through the rules this time, there's no definition for stream in the rules, only wetland, non-riparian, riparian.
Okay.
I don't know if this is the proper time to bring this up or not. Since majority of DMS's business is stream, is there a necessity to put a definition for stream in these rules, or at least reference it there?
I'm gonna write it down.
Don't mean to put you on the spot, just.
No, not at
sorry,
all,
I'm just
because
curious.
this is the opportunity for when we do the draft changes to add definitions, amend definitions or update them. And we certainly are aware of not a lot, but a number of points in the rules that are either, links that don't work anymore, URLs that might be different. That's the opportunity, and that's what we're going to get started on. I've already started, but the official, shoot the gun and start the race is August coming up. So yes, thank you.
Gotcha.
And if it's determined that we need to add that, we will do it. This is that's why we but we give a lot of time for us to be able to consider that and get it reviewed by council and of course, all of you as well. Thank you.
We're always welcoming our EMC chair, J.D. Solomon, sitting with us today. And welcome, Chairman Solomon.
Kelly,
Yes,
if this
got a
is
question?
just schedule, and you want to bring it to the EMC tomorrow, we can vote on a waiver tomorrow and get you underway, not in August, but in May, if you'd like to. You want to think about that during this meeting? I think we can post it this afternoon and add it to the agenda, because this is just a schedule. This isn't adoption of a rule.
Since this hasn't actually passed the 60-day mark for APO approval,
Sure.
it might actually make more sense to wait until the July
Okay.
full commission.
So the 60 days, the 60 day is in play here. So it's coming to committee, but the 60 days won't be up
Hasn't
until we
yet,
meet in
right.
July.
Right.
That's, no, next, right there. Yeah, we would expect them to become final in June. So
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
I missed that. So I was just trying to be helpful to you instead of waiting.
thank you. I do appreciate that.
It's good to have you,
And
Chairman Solomon.
blood
Thank you. Good
pressure all in
question.
one time, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Ellison?
I just wanted to say, Kelly, thank you for being excited and engaging, and I would add alacrity to your,
Thank you.
approach.
I learned a new word in this process. It's somnolent. That's what happens after lunch at a meeting. So somnolence, yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Are we ready to move forward then with a motion? Commissioner Baumgartner?
Chair Keen, I move that we,
Oh.
thank you. I remove that we approve to proceed to the EMC with the proposed readoption schedule and August 1st, 2027 readoption deadline for 15A NCAC O2R.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Ellison seconded. Any other discussion? If not, we'll do a vote. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed, like sign. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Thanks, sir.
Second item on the agenda today is an action item. Moore County and the town of Southern Pines are seeking approval from the commission for a water supply watershed program joint resolution to transfer rights for 5/70 land acre, I guess that would be land acres or acre in the Little River intake number 2 water supply watershed WS3 protected area from the county of Moore, North Carolina, and the town Southern Pines dated October 1, 2024. Shelton Sullivan from Denver has that presentation.
Good afternoon, Chairman King, committee members. I am Shelton Sullivan with I'm the Water Supply Watershed Coordinator within the Stormwater Program within the Division of Energy, Mineral, and Land Resources. I'm here today presenting this joint resolution proposed from Moore County and Southern Pines for a transfer of their 570 credits, the water supply watershed credits. So before I get into that, I'm gonna give you a little bit of overview on the water supply program, and then we'll get into the credits. Okay. August 1992, the water supply watershed rules became effective. Essentially, they were rules to regulate some development in the water supply watersheds and stormwater runoff to protect those as a water supply intakes for the state. Specifically, General Statute 143-215.5 specifically says well, shoot, I wrote it down. Hang on a second. It's the statute that establishes the water supply program and the authority to do that. It says local programs may develop a program and comply with the rules of the state. So with that, the rules for the water supply rules are in the administrative code, 15A NCAC 02B 620 through 624. So at the statute, then we have the rules. So, and specifically in the rules, 623 is where it states all local governments that have a land use authority within the water supply watersheds in the state shall adopt and enforce ordinances and water supply watershed maps that meet or exceed the requirements within that statute and within the rules of 621 through 624. So that's very, very brief background on the rules. So in 1993 and 94, local governments began implementing the water supply watershed rules, getting their ordinances adopted to comply. And to date, we have approximately 290 local governments with those water supply watershed ordinances. And they implement the program with the oversight from our division, Demler, and the stormwater program, and specifically the water supply program. We oversee that from the local program, for the local programs. So here is just a quick map. It shows the water supply watersheds throughout the state. Obviously, the different colors that indicates the designation of the water supply. Some of the blue ones to the west are water supply 1, more restrictive. Then you have 2, 3, 4, with the different colors. 2, water supply 2 are the red, pink. Water supply 3, green, and orange is the water supply 4. And this is just a little bit closer so you can think about it on the landscape. This is around Greensboro. The green is water supply 3, the red is 2, and the orange is water supply 4. And the darker areas are the critical areas of that water supply watershed. Just give you an idea of what it looks like on the landscape. So the water supplies are classified in the O2B rules, 212 through 218, water supply 1 through 5, the most restrictive being 1, and the 5 is the least restrictive. Actually, 5 doesn't have any restriction as far as the water supply rules go. So in the rules in 0624 is a table that lists some of the density requirements for the water supply watersheds. And this is just a sample here. Water supply 1, it says shall remain undeveloped. Water supply 2, allows more BUA, which is the built upon area percentage, and it goes up from there. Water supply 3, a little bit more. The way the table is broken out in location is in the critical area, or is it outside of the critical area? Low density development for single family. You can see there's quite a few options there. Low density for all other development, and then a high density option as well. And you can see the percentages. The highlighted is water supply 3, which is where the water supply that we're talking about, the transfer will be occurring in the water supply 3. That's why it's highlighted. And the table continues water supply 4 and 5, just so you'll have it as a reference. Water supply 4, for example, like Lake Jordan is water supply 4. And this is the example. So where are the water supply watersheds? This example, the intake is in the run of the river. And from the intake, the critical area is a half mile from that. 1/2 mile from the intake upstream and upslope to the ridge line is the critical area. Beyond that, in the water supply 2 and 3 is called the balance of the watershed, which runs the complete watershed up to the ridge line, which means the different watershed. The water supply 4, for example, it may not go the whole watershed, but the run of the river, the protected area would be 10 miles from the intake. So there may be just a radius here that would cut off the water supply 4 protected area. If it was a water supply impoundment or a reservoir, the critical area is still 1/2 mile, but it's from the normal pool elevation. So from the normal pool elevation is 1/2 mile, or you see here where my cursor is, that's much less than 1/2 mile, but that's the ridge line. So it flows to another watershed beyond that. So it's 1/2 mile or ridge line. The water supply 2 and 3 balance of the watershed again extends up to the complete watershed. Protected area water supply 4, which is not shown here, but it would have been 5 miles from the critical line upstream. So, for example, there would be a another radius here 5 miles out from this critical area. Okay, so also in the rules, in 624, there are several different density options available. Low density, high density, cluster development, density averaging, which local government would have in their ordinance. There's a high density option. If they want to have that option, they need to put it in their ordinance, and then we review it, the ordinance, to see if it meets or exceeds the rules. But during the rule development in the early 90s, it was recognized that development restrictions, that the rule may develop some, restrict some development for projects that may be critical to communities, such as schools, hospitals, care centers, fire stations, or I'm sure there's many others that can make this list. So with that, during the rulemaking, that 1070 density option came to life. So what is that? So 1070 option really means the maximum of 10% of the land area of the water supply watershed may be developed up to 70% built upon area. Now that 10% is not allowed in the critical area and not even used in the calculation. So it's outside of the critical areas of water supply 2, 3, and 4. And the area is based on the jurisdiction as delineated in 1993 or when the water supply classification became effective. And this 1070 option is not available in water supply 1. So what does that look like on this map again? We have, this is a water supply critical area. So to calculate what your 1070 option would be, you do not exclude the critical area. And you can see what the area is for your balance, which is the light green. From that number, if it's 100,000 acres, 10% of that can be used for your 1070 option. Let me back up a second. The original rule in 93 was a 570 option, so 5%. 5% of your watershed could be up to 70% BUA, which was modified in 95 to be a 10% option instead of a 5%. Now, local governments were allowed to, if they had 5%, they were allowed to keep that. And actually Moore County and Southern Pines both kept the 570 option. And just note that the rule does include the projects shall comply with stormwater treatment requirements for low density or a high density if the local government has that option. That's in the rule. Okay, transfers. That's really why we're here, for the transfer. In the rule, in 624, same part of the rule. I'm just going to read it. Local government having jurisdiction within a designated water supply watershed may transfer in whole or in part its right to the 1070 or 570 in this case land area to another local government within the same water supply watershed upon submittal of a joint resolution from the two local governments and approval by the commission. That's from the rule.
So, question, why does it have parenthetical on the 570? Why did you flag that as a parenthetical?
That's right. The rule actually says 1070 right now.
Well, don't say 570 though.
I put that in there.
Okay, all right.
So Moore County and Southern Pines both have a 570 option.
So was that 570 brought out by you in the
Yes.
department? or was that from the governance of the joint
So-
resolution?
So, I mean, I didn't specifically quote the rule in this slide. If that's what you're saying.
Why is 570 there?
Because Southern Pines and Moore County have a 570 option. And that's what they can transfer their 570 option. They don't have a 1070 to transfer.
I got you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
And I wasn't quoting the specific rule there. I'm sorry. I didn't. Maybe that was misunderstood. Okay. So one thing that we have on our website, which is very helpful as far as getting information to the local governments, are all these, not reports, what are they called? Publications, yeah, publications of these streamlines that were developed in the late 90s and early 2000s from water quality or the water supply program. And it's very, very helpful information, and still distribute that to the local governments because, I mean, some of the rules are there, but a lot of ideas on how to prioritize for the local governments. I mean, they can adopt it, but they want some guidance on what kind of projects should we do and that kind of thing. But and that's in there. Just some ideas on them how to prioritize these 1070 is in the streamlines form online on our website. And it's just very helpful. Okay, so why we're here today is for the Moore County and Southern Pines proposed transfer. In August of 24, Southern Pines sent a request. Oh, I forgot to mention. They have a member of Southern Pines, Reagan Parsons is here with Southern Pines,
Okay.
by the way. To August 24, Southern Pines sent a request to Moore County, excuse me, of a joint resolution proposal transferring part of the transferring part of the 570 credits to the Southern Pines from the county for two continuing care communities located in the town's jurisdiction, in the town boundaries, sorry. Belmead and Pennock Village. These are both within the Little River Intake Number 2 watershed, Water Supply 3. Excuse me. And the request is for 94 acres for Belmead for the redevelopment and continuing development, 94 acres there, and 27 acres on Pennock Village. And the quote, this is quoted from Southern Pines. These tax-exempt communities provide benefit to the entire Moore County population while receiving services directly from Southern Pines. Assigning allocation credits from the county's bucket is an appropriate planning tool to avoid the sprawl of these campuses into undeveloped farmland and greenfields of the county. Just one of the reasons they were requesting the allocation from Moore County. That was in August of 24. October, it was approved by Moore County Board of Commissioners, as well as Southern Pines Town Council. So they both approved the transfer. They jointly recommend transfer and agreed that the purpose is for future development and expansion of these existing continuing care retirement communities located within the town's zoning jurisdiction and within the Little River Intake Number 2 watershed, Water Supply 3. The joint resolution, signed resolution is in your attachments. It's attachment D, I believe. Okay, so it was signed, and this shows Moore County and the overlay of the Little River Intake Number 2 watershed. The intake is actually in Cumberland County, so The highlighted area is really all of Moore County's land that's in Little River intake number 2. And Southern Pines is there in the southeast corner. You know, quite a bit of it's in the watershed, but some of it is not as well. Here's a closer shot. Belmead is in the north, and Pennant Village is in the south, and Southern Pines is sitting right there. And then this is just another shot, shows it within the watershed with the 2 communities highlighted. Here they are as well. And obviously there is some development there already. But again, this pros for the continuing development and redevelopment of these communities. That's the proposal. So what, this is just a table, a small table of what Moore County had in the beginning and Southern Pines had in our files. The balance of the watershed that was available in Moore County upon the ordinance approval, I think it was 93, but 77,000 acres. So 5% of that is 3886. That's what was originally available in their allocation. Southern Pines acreage was 4380, took land area of the watershed. So 5% of that number was 219. That's what they had originally. That was in 93. There's been several approvals, been transfers, ETJs have changed. So at the end of the day, after the current 121 acre transfer, Moore County would have 2,424 acres. Southern Pines would have 531 acres of remaining 570 allocation. So the request to the Water Quality Committee is to approve and send this to I guess you just need to read it like y'all did. Approved to send the October 1, 2024 joint resolution to transfer the rights for the 121 acres of the 570 credit allocation within the Little River intake number 2 water supply watershed to the town of Southern Pines from the county of Moore, North Carolina, for future development and expansion of existing continuing care retirement communities, Belmead and Pennant Village, located within the town's jurisdiction, town zoning jurisdiction, and within the Little River Intake 2 watershed to the Environmental Management Commission for approval, consideration.
That's the motion. That's the request.
Yes.
Okay. We'll open the floor up for any questions. Shell does a good job. Commissioner Deere, lot cover.
Thank you. I'm just trying to understand, this transfer is to enable Phoenix Village and Belmead to do some expansion, is that correct?
My understanding, yes.
Okay. Could you go back to the map, the aerial map of the city? Back up 2 more, I think. There we go. Yeah, okay. Can you tell me where from a water runoff or a drainage perspective, where the Weymouth Woods State Forest Preserve is located relative to Phoenix Village? I'm just trying to get oriented. Is it down to the southeast of that?
Could you say that? Which forest?
There's a longleaf pine forest,
Oh,
the state property, Weymouth Woods.
Plymouth Woods. Okay.
Weymouth. The gentleman, I think, from Southern Pines is behind you.
Yes, he probably knows. Sure. Yes.
And your name and.
Thank you. Reagan Parsons. I'm the town manager with Southern Pines. Weymouth Woods is actually adjacent to the Phoenix campus. The
Right.
Phoenix campus backs up to the Weymouth Woods, the Weymouth House there, which is also the North Carolina Literary Hall of Fame. And then the woods is right off of the house.
Right. So I'm trying to see, is this development of Phoenix Village going to impact that state property at all?
So Phoenix Village, for the most part, an awful lot of it is already there. It has been developed. The stormwater is already in place. However, they have a master plan. Both of these campuses are continuing care retirement communities. So they've got the wide range from independent living all the way through nursing facilities. Right now, Phoenix Village just took down an old two-story structure, and they're in the process of putting up a three-story structure to create some more units and things. It's a little bit larger footprint. So most all of the stormwater controls are there. Certainly as anything new is added or additional impervious, that runs through all of our stormwater calculations and our engineers, and they will have to do pre-post runoff type stormwater controls on that, but it does not directly impact the woods there that you're talking about, the state park.
And how about the house property? Weymouth House property, does it impact that at
Yeah,
all?
again, actually, if you're familiar with the property, there's Phoenix Village. The town actually has a water tower there on the Weymouth House property because it is a high point in town. So things are kind of shedding away in the other direction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Twitty, then Commissioner Baumgartner.
Just a curiosity and process question. Why is this coming before the EMC? It sounds like the county already has the authority and rule for this development to be done, and they can give that authority to Southern Pines. Why does it come before the EMC?
My understanding is because the rule says the EMC has to ultimately sign off on it. We actually have a history, as do other jurisdictions in Moore County, of working with Moore County along these lines. If you're familiar with Moore County, it's a very large geographic area. However, a vast majority of the population is all in the southern part of Pinehurst, Aberdeen, and Southern Pines. The county, as a result of its geographic vastness, has an awful lot of these credits. Their interest is in sort of maintaining the farmland and the rural nature of the northern portions of the county. So we try to work hand in hand so that as these sorts of developments come along, the county can transfer those allocations within the same watershed to the individual municipalities. This particular instance is very similar to one we did 10 or 11 years ago, in that both of these properties are tax exempt. The town is providing all of the services, the EMS, everything to these facilities. However, they don't pay any property taxes to the town. So it's a good use of the county's allocation credits because the town, given the value of those credits, could hold them all back and simply look for commercial and industrial development with them to build the tax base. But by turning these down, they're going to have to go out into the green fields and the farmlands of the county in order to develop. So it's a mutual relationship. The one that we did about 10 years ago, if you're familiar with Sandhills Community College, it has a Pinehurst mailing address thanks to the federal jurisdictional lines, but it actually lies within the town limits of Southern Pines. The campus has has grown quite a bit in the last 20 years. But we actually worked out a deal with the county where they allocated some credits to the town so that any development that takes place on that community college campus, which is clearly the benefit of the entire county of Moore, including some of the surrounding counties, would not cut into our very limited amount of allocation credits. So we really try to work together. These watersheds don't follow political jurisdictions, so we try to work together to make sure the credits get utilized in the best fashion possible to meet both the needs of the county and their desire for a rural area, and then the more dense and urban type of development that takes place in the southern portion of the county.
Commissioner Baumgartner, or do you want to do a follow-up? Commissioner
Yeah.
Twitty?
So the answer is it's written in the rule that way.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
That's what I was going to point out.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, Commissioner Baumgartner?
Just curiosity, if I understand you correctly. So in 93, there's a 570 option. In 95, Moore County could have gone to the 1070 option, but chose to stay at 570. So is now Southern Pines and Moore County splitting the baby? Moore County's going to a 1070, now giving 570 to Southern Pines, and Moore County's keeping 570? Is that what's going on?
I believe in this watershed, both are 570. I have only been in Southern Pines since 2004. My understanding of what occurred back in 1994, there was a local attorney that had an item before the EMC, and Southern Pines at that time opted to stick with the low-density option and the 570. And I believe at least back in 2014, I believe, when I was before the EMC on another matter, I think we were even an asterisk in the rules, and it was little italicized stuff at the bottom that said we had agreed to a 570 at that time. I can't speak to the Moore County situation countywide because there's multiple watersheds involved there, obviously.
I guess what I'm saying, if Moore County was allowed to go to a 1070, given or allowing Southern Pines to take up the 570, you're kind of both at the same place, right? Moore County would have, or would Moore County just giving up its 570?
They're simply transferring their 570 within this particular watershed and the amount of 121 acres to Southern Pines. There was a slide in here, I think you saw that they've got thousands of acres that they have no intention or desire to actually develop at 70% or above 24% built upon area.
That's interesting. Okay.
Chairman Solomon, I'm sorry.
Question, are you in compliance now?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, then, in that case, I applaud you because this one rule is usually ignored in many communities.
No. And again, I mentioned I was before the EMC back in 2014. The town council had approved a development at that time. And again, we had a local attorney who questioned the town's methodology behind calculating these things. And we kept hearing things along the lines back at that time about how it was a local program and we could do this and that. But we basically brought our process before the EMC. We worked with an attorney at that time and we received a unanimous approval siding with the town from the EMC, both initially and then again on an appeal when a couple of members that weren't at the first vote showed up for the second and sided with us. So we are, to the best of my knowledge, in full compliance.
And this is one, being a local government official too, this is one of the only kind of stormwater development things that falls on the state. Everything else is delegated to the locals to
Yeah.
enforce. We don't do a good job at the state level of enforcing this. So I don't even know what the enforcement is if somebody violates it because you've already overpopulated with density.
What I can
rule's not
say
clear
is
on what
ours
you
have been
do.
tested,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so that's why it's the way it is, so.
Any other comments? Commissioner Yarborough?
Yeah, I commend you for thinking about farmland. That's pretty unusual in this state, so that's a good thing.
Thank you.
I have one question pertaining to the governance. I commend the county and the town working together. That's wonderful. Were there any quasi judicial zoning pieces to this at all?
You mean relative to either one of these campuses?
Yes, to this rule, to what you're bringing before us today. Was
Not
there any
relative to
quasi-governance
Not
piece?
relative to the intergovernmental agreement and the transfer. I'm trying to recall if either of the recent master plans went through a quasi judicial zoning or not. I'd honestly have to go back and look. I don't want to give you the wrong answer on that.
Just to follow up, Shelton mentioned ETJ and you've mentioned taxation and non-regulatory and regulatory. Just for a tidbit of information on Senate Bill 257 that's going through the Senate this time in reference to governance, thinking forward to development in the watershed areas, particularly as infrastructure is created for build out, then is it in line of what Senate Bill 257 is referencing to governances, ETJs, and so forth and so on. You just go to the bill and see that, but.
Yeah, the impact of those ETJs, and it's
That's
funny because
my-
I was just having that.
Questioning on this presentation with the geographic location here, with two governances and defining the governances that you've gone into a partnership, a joint partnership, which is wonderful. But is infrastructure as far as the EMC moving forward with rulemaking and looking at other areas of the state? Just wanted your thoughts on that.
I think that is a very key aspect, and I was just having a conversation with a colleague at the league last week. Yeah, I think it's Senate Bill 675 that has a lot of the development type regulations in it. And one of those actually has sort of mandatory by right zoning for certain densities. And I was pointing out that in particular communities, and Shelton showed the map earlier, many of those rural communities have actually set aside these allocation credits very specifically for tax-based job creation, industrial development, commercial type of things. By going in and requiring a minimum amount of density for housing related types of things. The unintended consequence may very well be that they're giving away very valuable credits for some of these communities that really need the job creation and tax base the most. Purely an observation and in my opinion, but I think that's what you were asking,
Thank you for your
so.
thoughts. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yes. Any other comments, questions? Commissioner Derrick.
Thank you. Is there a public notice process for this transfer that's going to be happening so that the folks in the county and the town are aware that?
Well,
this-
as an intergovernmental agreement, it appeared on both the agendas for the county commissioners and the town council. It took place in open session with public comment periods and hearings and all of those types of things, yes.
Any others?
I have one comment is, Moore County and Southern Pines, they do have the 570 option currently. They both have that in their ordinance. So-
Got you.
If I may, since Chairman Sullivan is here, and if this body feels inclined to send this forward tomorrow, am I good not to turn around and make the hour drive each way tomorrow morning?
Predict that.
I understand. I understand.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you. A quick question for the county manager.
Maybe both.
Okay.
Can these development rights be sold? Can Moore County sell them to, could they charge? Southern Pines?
I believe there are programs elsewhere in the state where density averaging and yes, fees get charged for the right to those allocation credits. That is not something we have done in Southern Pines, in large part because it will drive up the cost of development. And we could start a very long discussion around things like affordable housing or commercial type development, et cetera. But I believe there are programs where people essentially purchase the rights to these credits. Yes. Thank you very much.
Would you ask the, yes, thank you for the slide there for the the recommendation. Okay, that's before us. If there are no other questions, then I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson.
I move that the Demler Stormwater staff request. I'm sorry.
Make sure I got it right.
Yeah.
The agenda may be the better place.
And I can't read it.
Yeah, it's a very long.
That we approve the joint resolution to transfer the rights for 121 acres of 570 credit allocation within the Little River Intake Number 2 water supply watershed to the town of Southern Pines from the county of Moore.
Okay, motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Yarborough, seconded. Any discussion? All those approve of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you. It's a lot of material, Shelton.
Can I clarify, this is approved to go to the EMC?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
tomorrow. All right, thank you.
That's right. It would be,
Yeah, it would be tomorrow.
okay. He wants to go to the EMC. The part of the motion is that it go to the EMC tomorrow.
It's on the agenda for tomorrow.
It is. Yep.
Just clarifying.
Okay. But we move, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We're good. Thank you for making the trip.
Very much.
Yes, sir. Next item of business is an action item, number 3, request approval to proceed to the EMC with proposed PFOS and Gen X monitoring and minimization rules 15A NCAC 02H 0923 and 15A NCAC 02B dot 0512 from the Division of Water Resources and with attachments. And I'm going to take and as chair, I'm going to also include number 4, request approval to proceed to the EMC with proposed 1.4 docks and monitoring and minimization rules 15A NCAC 02H 0924 and 15A NCAC 02B .0513 from Department of Water Resources with attachments. With 3 and 4 just read, then I'm going to make this statement beforehand. This afternoon, we have 2 action items on the agenda, which I've just read, PFAS and 1.4 docks and rulemaking for monitoring and minimization initiative. Unfortunately, the approved RIA, the regulatory impact analysis from OSBM, which by general statute 15OB-21.4 must be prepared by the agency. It's not complete or approved. Only yesterday morning did the department receive comments from OSBM on PFAS and didn't receive anything yet on 1.4. This was launched to the public through the DEQ website 2 weeks ago. Nothing from OSBM until yesterday. Due to this incomplete report and being consistent with having OSBM approved RIAs in hand before this committee sends it to the full EMC, I decided to leave it on the agenda as an action item as posted. Is there any comments from committee members at this point?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Ellis?
Given the substantial nature of OSBM's comments, and I would stress that OSBM did not have an extended period of time. This was all kind of appears to have been rushed. But the comments from OSBM and the questions they asked are very substantive, particularly regarding the financial analysis prepared by the department, where it appears that the department is a long way from having an approved RIA from OSBM. Given all that, I move that action on both the draft rules for PFAS and 1,4-dioxane, as read by the chair and stipulated in the agenda, that the monitoring and minimization rules be continued until such time as the department receives approval for the regulatory impact analysis from OSBM.
Commissioner Ellison, I'm actually, if we can amend to do them separately, 2 separate motions, as they're 2 separate action items. I know.
I want to need some direction on that from legal, because I included that in my statement and in reading the number 3 and number 4 together and announcing it that we were getting into that action item as disclosed as an action item, but on the handout by number 4 on the 1.4, it doesn't have action. So I was looking at the word action as given to me by staff today. And I was including action on 3 and 4 at the same time. That's how I come up with that. But if it's not proper, that if we do individually.
Do it cleaner as 2 separate motions.
2 separate motions?
The schedule that was published online has action for both pass.
Okay. So we'll start.
Permission to amend the motion?
Please.
I amend the motion. The first motion is that the action item on the draft PFAS rule for monitoring and minimization be continued until such time as the department receives approval for the regulatory impact analysis from OSBM.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second? Mr. Yarborough,
I'll second that.
motion's been seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Drake?
Thank you. I would like to ask our council, I really don't know, is there a legal difference between continuation and deferral? Deferment, are they essentially the same thing?
For these purposes, it'd be the same thing, just.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Commissioner Nelson, you have a comment?
I do have comments. I'm rather disconcerted in the department's performance on development of the RIA. This committee and the commission have been talking about PFAS for over a year. The questions received by the department from OSBM regard methodologies and results of the RIAs. This committee has raised on previous iterations of PFAS RIAs, this committee has raised multiple questions regarding methodologies and results of the draft RIAs prepared by the department. It's very frustrating that the same types of mistakes are made repeatedly in the development of these RIAs. We have heard that some of the economic analysis required for an RIA has been impeded because the department lacks sufficient staff trained in economics, and that there has been an economist on maternity leave and all of which is fine and wonderful. But this has been going on for over a year. We have at NC State in two different disciplines, we have very good programs for training natural resource economists, graduate programs and PhD programs. If the department has a hard time getting this work done and done well, I suggest you reach out to our local universities because they've got some good talent. One of the other comments from OSBM related to the alternatives and determining costs. And I believe that an important factor in the monitoring and minimization draft rule as developed is to provide the committee better information so that we can have a more accurate apprehension of the problems at hand and can therefore craft more successful rules. OSBM questioned some benefits of the draft rule, and I think part of that may be because nothing in the RIA mentioned the no action alternative. We have had presentation after presentation about the near ubiquitous nature of PFAS in our surface waters statewide. And we know they're there, but we really don't know all the places that they're coming from other than Comores. And we don't know what tools are available. And this draft rule was a step, a critical step towards this committee and ultimately the full commission developing a rule to protect the health and safety and environment of North Carolina. And I would hope that the department takes this continuation or delay in action by the committee and makes good use of the time before our next meeting and can get the RIA approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Ellison. Any other comments? Commissioner Drake?
I would appreciate knowing a bit of background about what has occurred in the last few weeks since our last meeting. It appears that the draft of the rule that we have before us in today's package, and it's there for us to read, has some substantial changes in the threshold or the trigger for developing a minimization plan compared to what we heard in the March meeting. And is that not a reason for the committee to review the revisions that were made outside of the committee?
Are you addressing that to me, or would you rather address that to the department?
I understood that we had a package before us in March that had a threshold that dealt with or a trigger level that dealt with a change in percent percent change from influent to effluent. That's no longer there. How did that end up happening? How did the content of that particular paragraph change? What's background on that?
Okay, I'll leave that up. Comment from what I recall is that I gave you as commission is for clarity, the courtesy of revealing your thoughts on the rule. And that was your idea. And there were metrics, percentages, and so forth. And those were discussed in the group that had been put together by DWR Director Rogers and his staff and his team, along with myself and Vice Chair Ellison, in case something happened to me. He would step in, and of course, Chair Tim Bumgarner, who is Chair of Groundwater. And I asked the EMC Chair Solomon to attend as well whenever those meetings were put together by the department. So whenever those rules were put in to release to the draft, to be released to the public, along with the 1.4 and along with the RIA, then they're webbed together. And there was a lot of discussion through that, and those were submitted by the department to the public 2 weeks ago. And I think the RIAs were as well, but the one on the 1.4 was not until just about 4 or 5 days ago. Commissioner Solomon.
Point of order.
Chair-
We got a
Chairman
motion
Solomon.
and a second on the floor.
We do.
Discussion is relative to that motion, up or down. So this may be pertinent to that. It sounds like we're starting to wonder. Let's get this voted up or down, and then you can have all the discussion you want. But let's follow Robert's rule if we can on
I
the motion
understand,
and
and
a
I'm
second.
trying to do that, but it was a courtesy for question. And so, but I'll follow that, but we did have discussion and before we vote on it. Any other thoughts, concerns, discussions? If not, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand.
Can we be reminded what
the Oh.
motion on the table before is?
Would you read it again and do not include 1.4? That would
Right,
be on number.
the motion is that action on the draft rule for PFAS monitoring and minimization be continued until such time as there's an approved RIA.
Thank you.
That at such time. Okay. We would hope that it would be July. We were wanting that today. You understand the motion? It's been properly seconded. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed, like sign is unanimous. Thank you. As a courtesy, you made a motion earlier on the 1.4, which is number 4. Request, I'll read it again. Request approval to proceed to the EMC with proposed 1.4 dioxin monitoring and minimization rules 15A NCAC 02H 0924 and 15A NCAC 02B 0513. That's from the Department of Water Resources with attachments. Would you like to, as a courtesy, lead it?
I move that the draft rule for monitoring and minimization of 1,4-dioxane be continued until such time as the department receives approval for a regulatory impact analysis from OSBM.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bumgarner seconded. Any discussion? No discussion. We'll vote on it. Motion. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. All those opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you. Number 5, this is a discussion that something was added to, a letter was added the day before yesterday. I hope it wasn't an inconvenience. That was the EPA's December 20, but that's not on my paper. Let's see. draft revisions to 15A NCAC 02B 02.0206 per state legislation. 2024-44, section 5.1. Division of Water Resources. Director Rogers, you have someone to go over these attachments? Do you want to do that from the department? Karen? Hey, Karen, thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, so this was an information item for you all in March. We were asked to take the letter that was submitted to EPA, put that in a rule and address EPA's comments. So that is what we have done. So you all have several attachments, including the session law, the letter to EPA, 2 letters back from EPA. You also have a draft of the rule as it currently is written, as well as a summary document that goes through each of EPA's comments and how it's proposed to be addressed. So the rule language that you all have, it's shown in black and white, underlined and strike through as far as the language from the session law. And then the language in red that starts on page 3 is the language that we propose to change to address EPA's comments. And I can pull it up if that's helpful, or.
I think you guys have got, the outcome for today is to give Karen enough, or the staff enough information to do the regulatory impact analysis for July. So I would think would come back in July is the final rule, which you have a draft today. And then anything you guys have read in the draft rule that would impact the way they would do the regulatory impact analysis, which I don't know that there is, but I want them to have the opportunity to hear what you got to say if you have anything to say about the rule. Rule's pretty clear from statute, and I think Karen's made a good job of telling you where they have ruled it up, and you see what the EPA's comment on, and I believe that's fully included. So I don't think there's a lot to debate today that won't be debated next time, but if there is, you guys need to hear it before they need to hear it before we do the RA.
You know, I don't think there's any debate on this, Chair Solomon, today. I looked it over, but I am quite, I am not surprised by the letter that we received from Region 4 on EPA. That was a good response, I thought, but it laid the groundwork that Region 4 is going to be real receptive to what North Carolina can come up with for a statewide rule, and not just with this, but other rules. It was interesting to see in that letter how receptive that Region 4 I think is going to be. And there's certainly going to be a lot of changes. In particular, we know that Zeldin with the EPA is looking at PFAS and PFOS and all the chemical piece in 1.4. But I like the letter, and I hope everyone got that. That was a late add-on. Does anyone want to comment? Have you got the letter that you could put up? Because it was such a late add-on. I didn't know if the public had a chance to see it. I know they can get to your website, but.
Yeah. I'm trying to pull that letter up.
Look at this one.
Let's see.
Talk about the other rules while we're here.
It's I don't know if it's on here.
I think it's a letter with no date.
Oh. Does someone see it? I don't see it. You see our letter and the response letter. If I can go to the website.
Commissioner Baumgartner.
While she's looking that up, am I understanding this is a session law directive, if you will, came out of session law for effluent standards, reviewed earlier by EPA. Now EPA seems to be receptive for this rulemaking to start and go through.
And in fairness to EPA, what they said before, this had been brought to them before by previous session law, and it just involved DEQ. And the answer kind of came back a little nebulous, but was taken as no from from DEQ. Then they ran another session law that said DEQ and the EMC. And we participated with them talking to EPA. EPA did not say no, but they gave us about 5 conditions that had to be done, or they would make harsher comments or even revoke our NPDES program. This letter says they don't intend to revoke an NPDES program, but they still reserve the right to make comments as they have to under the Clean Water Act. So I think what staff's done is made sure we've got the right language in there for now. We still may have to tweak it. The other part that we have talked about in the last, we just got this letter I did yesterday.
Yeah.
So what staff has also talked about was there are other provisions and other rules that talk about discharging to low flow streams. We'll have to make sure we flag all those and make sure those corrections are made when we change this rule or
Understood.
adopt this rule. So.
Thank you for the clarity.
Yep, and right before the last paragraph, the last sentence, I like where it's EPA is fully committed to our cooperative federalism, and we look forward to working collaboratively with the state to provide any further technical assistance to streamline permit processes. That shows me an attitude of wanting to collaborate with the state. And I think starting out of the gate with the EPA and with our governments here in the state, getting together and collaborating better with EPA and Region 4, particularly knowing how North Carolina is standing up to, fight the good fight that we're doing. So I just want to make sure that letter was brought up at committee because it was so lately put together by the department. Not blaming the department, and we just got it yesterday, but I wanted the public to be able to see that. Any comments, Commissioner Deering?
Thank you. I wanted to ask the staff if there is certainty on your part in how to implement this. Is the language that came through in this session law clear and consistent with the standard terminology and practices that the department already has in place in the existing rules?
Yeah, so without getting into,
Have to take this.
okay, I was gonna do a high level answer.
That was a
Go
hook
for
right
it.
there. That was a
Julie.
hard hook.
Hi, I'm Julie Grave. I'm Deputy Director for the Division of Water Resources. And the EPA commented because it's a piece of legislation and there was no public notice process, no input from citizens and so on. So they were concerned that we were not following the MOA process that we have all agreed upon with EPA. To regards to your question, Commissioner, the difficulty with this particular legislation, it was written, and I think it had a certain purpose in mind, but it does conflict directly, as you said, with other legislation, as Commissioner Chair JD has pointed out. The definitions don't match existing definitions. It talks about 0.1. And there's a 0.1 already in other rule that we have, and they cite it differently here and not in the same manner. It's not cumulative. They cite receiving waters, not surface waters. So there's a whole series of issues that I have to be honest, if doing an RA, I don't know who this applies to, because the rule is just a little bit all over the place, unfortunately. So we could make changes. I'm pretty sure if I made all those changes, what the rule was intended for would not be carried through. But we would be glad to make those changes, okay, and present you something that matches other rules.
Right. And my instructions have been, we do have a statute and we're not supposed to follow the direct statute anyway. Those are legislators, we are rule makers, as you know. So we will have to take the spirit of the statute and we'll have to put the Clean Water Act language around them, the definitions around them and whatnot. And we will take it to public comment the best we can. And then if all sides don't like it, that's what the public process is about. We'll get comments on the draft rules we've been instructed to do, and we'll do our best to do so. And we will get comments from all corners, I'm sure, about whether this is good or bad. It is restricted by legislation to 2 MGD discharge or less, so we know that. And we know there's been some stuff about maybe it's half MGD or less, but no, it's 2 MGD or less, so we're going to try to do it that way. And so it will take some effort and collaboration, but we cannot follow the exact statute. But I do believe we can follow the spirit of it and do the best we can as professionals to bring something to the public to get official comment on it. So that's my intent.
Would there be any benefit to this process if we were to, or if the department were to go to the legislature for a technical correction when they do their tech correct legislation at the end of the session?
It might be good then to get to the spirit of what they were trying to do, yes.
Is that something that the department would like to pursue?
We would pursue whatever the
We'll-
Environmental Management Commission would like us to pursue.
Yeah, let me see what we come back with these other rules that we just talked about this morning and see what they come back with and I'll see. And if we need to talk to the General Assembly, we will. If we don't, I'll bring it straight back to the committee or the department will bring it back to committee. Just definitions, guys. We got definitions on the books that we have to follow. So we'll look at it that way.
Anything else? Is that it from the department on information on this particular discussion item? That's the last item for discussion. Is there anything to add, committee members? No? Okay. If not, then we will go into director comments. Director Richard Rogers. Hey, Richard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Over the last few months, we've been working really hard in the development of monitoring and implementation plans for PFAS and also 1,4-dioxane. We've had stakeholder group meetings. We've gotten feedback, engaged them. We have taken time and limited the comments that we've received in order to move these things forward. Our staff is working diligently to get these rules drafted as quickly as possible. Over the last month, we've been engaged in taking direction from a subcommittee of this committee, Chair Keene, Vice Chair Ellison, Groundwater Chair Baumgardner, and also Chair Solomon. We have taken that direction and applied it directly to the draft rules that y'all have before you today. The draft rules are a direct relationship to the draft RAA that is before you today as well, and also exactly what OSBM has commented to recently. Again, we were under a tight timeline. Staff has developed 4 different rules in this brief time, and working with this group and being directed with them and putting in what they requested to be in the rule. As a result, we did have comments come back from OSBM. We're more than willing to continue to work on the rule and the RIA to get it where it needs to be. But just for your information, the response to the rule or the RIA that was presented is a direct relation to what was presented to them in the rule. We'll continue to work and hope we can continue to work cooperatively with the committee in this process. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Rogers. Committee members. Start over, Bill Yarborough, Commissioner Yarborough.
I do want to commend the director and Sushma, John Nicholson. They've put a lot of effort in trying to do some things with the permitting situation that we have in Western North Carolina. So I commend them for that and thank them for their diligence to look at that. Very grateful to so I think it's something that the rest of the state can benefit from should we get this all together. So when it is a true emergency, there's something actually that we know what to do and everybody's in the same boat, regardless of the regulatory agency. So thank you again for what you're doing.
Commissioner Derrick.
Thank you. Just one comment about the PFAS and then one about the dioxane. And thank you for letting me speak. On the PFAS, I wanted to inquire about the subcommittee's decision not to include any of the tract suggestions that I made at the March meeting. You don't have to answer that today, but I would at some point like to to get your reasoning for basically wholesale not listening or using any of those suggestions. As I mentioned earlier, I would be interested in knowing about the decision-making to remove a threshold that was originally in the draft we received in March, and that I made revision suggestions also in March. On the dioxane, I believe we received a letter from the Cape Fear Public Utility Authority, April 21st, about an industrial source that is in the lower Cape Fear, and its large amount of dioxane discharges. And so I am interested in learning more about that. I understand there's some additional material and studies that are accompanying that. So I do hope that when dioxane returns to the agenda, that I won't be here, but I do hope that the committee will give the authority the opportunity to describe what their findings have been and express their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Duray. Start, Commissioner Twitty.
I did have prepared some comments and questions on the draft PFAS and 1,4-dioxane rules today, but since we pulled those from the agenda, I will provide an email to the committee members, to the chair, with those comments. Some of them I think are literally typos. Others I think are bigger picture. One of them is like Commissioner Deerhake mentioned. I think there's a miss that we're not providing any kind of yardstick by which folks are going to be measured or what goals they're going to need to achieve. But I will provide those in an email after this meeting.
Commissioner Reardon.
Okay,
Heard a
thank you.
bird in the room.
There's a bird in the room. I just want to echo something that Commissioner Yarborough had said today, and it was a great suggestion regarding response to emergency situation. He made a great point that the emergency is not when the water goes down, but in fact, that's when the recovery begins. And there can't be an artificial date imposed to when it's over if it's never even begun the recovery process or completed it. And I hope that the department pays special attention to his comments because they reflect the community in which he lives. He mentioned 800,000 acres of forestry that had been destroyed. It can't just be left on the ground to fill up the streams and other issues and be harborage areas and underbrush. But there must be a timely solution and how to handle that in a way that mitigates any public health impact or community impact. And I want to express my appreciation for his work in his community and for what he brought forward to the commission today. And I hope that the department takes heed to his comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reardon. Commissioner Baumgartner.
I just want to say there was a lot of work put in since the last meeting to get the PFAS 1,4-dioxane rules to a point and a regulatory impact analysis that could be approved. I appreciate everyone's work on that, the subcommittee of the committee. And ran out of time, I guess. That's the best way to say it. And I'm looking forward to seeing this at hopefully the next meeting, and we can get these out for public comment. I think the committee wanted to get these out for public comment as fast as we could, so we could start getting this process moving.
Thank you. Commissioner Ellison. No comment? Thank you. My final comment would be, thank you for the department. For putting something together that was the game plan from the beginning to create a framework. It might be 1 level, 2 levels, or 3 levels, but the game plan was to create a narrative in a frame of how we can find out who the dischargers are, what they're doing, and how they're doing it, and minimize it, if not get rid of it. But the foundation was to start by monitoring and minimizing it. That was the motion by this committee. And that's where we began officially. I commend the department to wanting to partner with the chair and vice chair of this committee and the chair of groundwater because of what we've discussed over the last 6, 7 months with groundwater and putting that and waste management, what we've seen in the landfills and leakage and all the things that are coming to us through these chemicals. And I want to thank the department for collaborating with those, the pretreatment, the North Carolina Pretreatment Consortium, the POTWs, the SIUs, the North Carolina Manufacturers Alliance, the North Carolina Water Quality Association. These were players, and some of these players actually told me that this is the first time they've done it like this. And you know, it felt good to start this out that way. So everybody was on the same playing field, and we set a model. Now, we've got some work to do. Yes, we wanted to get this out today. Chair Solomon wanted this out as quick as we could because it is a very, very solid piece in the House and the Senate and in the governor's office, all the way around, all over the state, just not in 1 or 2 river basins. We want to get the numbers, the right numbers for all of the river basins. We want to know what those are. Now, how do we do it? We have to go through OSBM. We have to get the regulatory impact analysis that has the physical note and a lot of things tied to it that's going to give us answers. But now we have an EPA that's ready and willing with their PFAS, with their commission that they're starting up. Zeldin is pushing to strengthen science. And I can't wait to see what the new science is going to be. And I've heard that from committee members. There is going to be new science. And he's going to bring that. The commission that they're putting together, I'm hopeful that we can get answers quickly. But with that, I want to commend also the committee members that spend their time reading all of the material that comes from all of these stakeholders and the ideas and suggestions that come from the department. So on the leave today with a smile on everybody's face, there's no one angry at anyone. This is all about, I say the L's. I know that living contains the L's of looking and learning and listening and loving. And that last one's pretty tough sometimes. But it's where we are today. This committee is now adjourned. And I thank you so much for attending. Thank you.